If you're somebody that likes to wait for facts to come out before you believe everything you hear, congratulations, you are considered to be normal. But unfortunately, not everyone's like you. You see, there's a lot of people that like to exploit situations for political gain, even if they don't have all of the facts just yet. So where do people go to spread their lies? Well, you probably guessed it, they go to Twitter. So here I have some random blue checkmark leftist assuming it has to be a white guy that committed this mass shooting. And there were many other people that did this yesterday. I call them dunce muffins because they look like absolute idiots now. So this one said, extremely tired of people's lives depending on whether a white man with an AR-15 is having a good day or not. Tweeted at 4:35 a.m. the morning before we learned the identity of the shooter. 186,000 likes. That goes to show you how fast misinformation can spread. But so many other people did it. They went on to say, clearly the shooter must be white because they were taken into custody, and if it were a black or brown person, they would be shot dead on sight. So of course, that's a lie. But people run with that narrative because it fits their political agenda. So obviously, fast forward now, we know the mass shooter, well, they weren't a white guy. They were a Syrian immigrant. So it doesn't fit the narrative anymore that white supremacy was the cause of it, and white people bad, and ban white people, right? Something like that. So what's funny is these same people that were trying to just hammer down white person, white guy, well, they can't use it anymore. And they didn't want to now talk about the identity of the actual shooter, right? Because it was a Syrian immigrant. So now they're saying things like, oh, well, let's just talk about the victims. Don't give publicity to the shooter. Why is that? Because you can't use it to your advantage politically? Because you can't blame it on white supremacy? So why is it that you're allowed to hammer down on one group of people and assume things about them, but now you can't hammer down on another group of people? Seems to me you're playing by a different set of rules. And you assuming things about a certain group of people and stereotyping about them, there might be a certain word for that typically you like to use against people who say things that you don't agree with. So, seems to me that there's double standards going on here. But anyway, hopefully now you understand why you shouldn't be quick to jump to conclusions, because oftentimes, before you know all of the facts, you look like an idiot. Just like this person right here. But moving on, now you have people using political theater to advance their agenda. So here you have a Democratic senator from California, I believe, go figure, right? Of all places. But they go on to say, it's easier to buy a rifle in one day than it is to cast your very first ballot. Coming from someone who probably doesn't own a gun, never owned a gun, never will own a gun, never bought a gun, I can run down the laundry list, but political theater, there's no truth to this. I'm from Jersey. Let me explain to you why this is false, at least in New Jersey's case. It might vary from state to state. So, in order for me to register to vote, here's what I need. I have to be over 17 years of age. I can't have a criminal record, or like an impending criminal offense, something like that. And I have to be living in the state for 30 days prior to the election. I sign or I register online, and I'm good to go. Want to know what I need to buy a gun? First and foremost, I go to my local police station. I get my FID card. Well, I apply for my FID card. So I have to go through a background check, submit a bunch of paperwork, and then I wait a couple months to get cleared. And hopefully my police chief doesn't sit on that application. They sometimes do. But anyway, once you get your FID card, I can now take it to the gun store, place it on the counter, and I can say, I would like to buy that gun right there. Do you think I can walk away with that gun day one? It depends. Because if the background check system is all backed up, kind of how it is right now, right? People don't know if there's going to be a riot tomorrow, and they don't know if guns are going to be banned outright. Well, it might take a few days for me to get cleared. But say there's no craziness going on and it's normal, right? Let's say things are back to normal. I can walk out within 30 minutes, something like that. But I'm going through all these kind of like loopholes in order to get my background check done. And it's not loopholes. I don't want to use that word, but that's the one that came out. I'm going through all these checks and balances, rather. So even though I have to get my FID card, I'm still having to have my background check done to get that FID card. So it's really just the New Jersey government taxing me before they get to tax me again when I buy the gun because I have to submit a background check again. Do you kind of understand this? So anyway, it varies from state to state because not every state requires you to have an FID, which basically says you're allowed to go to the store and buy a gun. So it's just another way the government can tax you. But anyway, all you need to know from this is it's coming from someone who doesn't know anything about guns, but they sure as hell know a lot about using political theater to their advantage. But now, moving on, we got to talk about something that's, I think, kind of serious. It's kind of worth talking about. According to this study, they're saying over 98% of all mass shootings are committed in gun-free zones. That's a crazy stat. And that was conducted by the Crime Prevention Research Center. So you can see in the green, that's the 98% or even more maybe. And in the red, that's mass shootings committed in gun-friendly zones. Now, just so you know, the Crime Prevention Research Center is founded or it's owned by someone who is pro-gun. So you might get some bias in there. Okay, now move over to the other one. This is a Boston, Massachusetts University professor. I probably botched that, but anyway, you kind of get the idea. The name is Louis Clarivas. Now, would you be willing to bet money that a university professor is on the left or on the right? Congrats, yes, they're on the left. You probably knew that right off the bat. So obviously you can see their bias showing because they say, no, the majority of mass shootings are committed in gun-friendly zones. It's only a small amount that are committed in gun-free zones. So all I can say is, depending on which way you lean is going to determine kind of how you feel about this or what's going to ring true to you. But all I want to say is, it's hard to deny that people who go out and commit these tragedies aren't trying to do it against soft targets because they don't want any sort of confrontation. They want to do their bidding and they want to either be captured or they want to have the easy way out and end their own life. They don't want to go up against someone that's willing to, kind of push back on them. So that's where this whole idea of, well, should we allow citizens to have, the right to concealed carry, or, in some states they have open carry. That's where this whole debate kind of, opens up. And even if you're someone who's pro-gun or if you're someone who's anti-gun, you're probably someone who wants police officers around. So don't we, in the event that there's something bad going on, don't we call a good guy with a gun to end the bad guy with the gun? Like, right? Don't we all agree on that? So why is it that it can only be a police officer? And that's where this debate, like I said before, opens up. Why can't we allow private citizens in all 50 states to have the option to carry a concealed firearm? Because let me kind of walk this one out. If more people in our society knew about guns and knew how to shoot guns, especially in the situation if somebody was trying to commit a mass shooting, well, there would be more people in the area immediately to put that person down. And if that were to become a trend, say you had it to where more people were allowed to conceal carry firearms, and I'm talking about a voluntary basis. I don't want everyone walking around with guns because not everyone wants guns. But let's say this trend starts happening where more people are trying to commit mass shootings, but within the first 2 shots, they're getting put down because there's some private citizen over here hiding in plain sight, right? You didn't have to wait for a police officer. You might get an effect where less people want to commit mass shootings because now they say there might be someone with a gun that I don't even know they might not look like a cop, they might not be a cop, and they might put me down before I can really carry out what it is I want to do. So you might have kind of maybe like a pullback on individuals trying to commit these, horrific acts. But just a few extra things worth noting. So I think when it comes to mass shootings, too many people get brought into this idea that only mass shootings, or the mass shootings that you hear about, are the ones that happen all the time. Because this is often a trick done by the media where they'll obviously blow up to massive proportions the high profile ones. So the one in Colorado a few days ago, the one a week ago in Atlanta, right at the spas. Well, those will obviously happen, and they're tragedies. I'm not trying to say we shouldn't report on them, but you'll then hear at the end of the year, oh, there were 300 some odd mass shootings this year. But you'll never hear about what the other mass shootings were. You'll just know about the high profile ones. So obviously, someone who's not really into the gun debate, you'll say, oh my God, 300 Atlantas happened, 300 Colorados happened. But the vast majority of mass shootings, because the definition is just 4 or more people shot in a public place, the majority of it is gang violence, or it's just like, it's like petty violence is the kind of the way that I can word it. It's not these high profile ones where, it's innocent life not doing any harm is lost. A lot of it is drive-by shootings. Like I said, inner city, gang violence. It's not people going to gun stores and buying guns illegally. They're buying burners off the street and they're doing some pretty bad things with them. So that's just something that I want to kind of get out there, that's often a trick that the media plays on the public by convincing them, oh, when you hear about mass shooting, yes, it was 300 schools that got shot up. It was 300 movie theaters, right? Something to that extent. But to end it, I know I'm taking a long time, is I think we should have more gun education in our society today. Starting from a very young age, I think if we teach students about the importance of firearms and really the firearm safety, that guns are dangerous, but also teach them about why guns were, or the Second Amendment was written into the Constitution. And it was the fact that, well, The government isn't always your friend, right? And bad people will always exist. And bad people can one day get into the government and try and do horrific things on its population. And even if that doesn't happen with the government, bad people are still going to exist. So it's the idea that you have the right to protect yourself. But if we really teach firearm safety growing up, I think you'll have more people that have an appreciation and, more importantly, an understanding for how deadly guns can be. And maybe then you'll have more people in our society with regard for human life. That's just a thought. So pretty long video today, but I think it was worth it because there's a lot of different things getting thrown around right now. So let me know your thoughts on any of the topics we covered, whether it's people spreading lies for political gain, whether people using political theater for advancing their political agenda, the theory about mass shootings being committed in gun-free zones versus gun-friendly zones, and obviously anything else I mentioned towards the end of the video. So listen, I appreciate you sticking through. I hope you go on to have a great rest of your week. Consider liking, commenting, or subscribing. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning at 9 a.m. You can follow me on Instagram. I post there every single day. But I appreciate you checking the video out, and I hope to see you again sometime soon.